This is Mills and Chill, and today you're joining us for Chapter 3 of Texting Under the Influence by Cara Lockwood. Before we get into this one, I'd just like to give you all a bit of a content warning. I hope you've got your drink in hand because things are about to get a little spicy. Jenna didn't know if he was moving closer to her or her to him, but suddenly their faces were inches apart. Jenna closed the gap and pressed her lips to his. He sat very still for a second, but not for long. He moved his lips expertly against hers. What started out as an investigation turned into something more, as he pulled her closer and he stroked the side of her face. She was used to Jax's tongue-wrangling kisses, but Jack was more deliberate, but no less hot. As he explored her mouth, she loved the taste of him, like the wintergreen gum he'd been chewing. Suddenly, all she wanted to do was climb into his lap for a full-on makeout session. He moved his hands down the fabric of her thin robe, and she shivered at the touch. Was she going to do this? Was she going to jump into bed with her boss? Her front door buzzer cut through the moment, and Jenna and Jack sprung apart as if they'd been caught on prom night by one of the adult chaperones. "Pizza," Jack said, sheepishly. His face turned red. "I'll get it." He stood up, and Jenna moved her legs so he could get by, and she thought his bashful blush was kind of sexy. She was so used to Jax's over-the-top, in-your-face sex appeal that she kind of liked Jack's subdued, shy guy vibe. He was different, but not a bad way. She touched her finger to her lips, and still felt that hot kiss. Definitely not in a bad way. He came back with a steaming pizza box, and Jenna suddenly realized she was famished. He opened the box and she snatched a slice, eagerly digging into it. Jenna swallowed her first bite. "Thank you for the pizza, it's amazing." "No problem." The pizza settled into Jenna's belly and she started to feel less drunk and less out of control. She was sobering up a bit, but wondered if that meant she'd soon be saying goodbye to Jack. She didn't want him to leave. "So, how do you get over Miranda?" she asked. "You know, the funny thing about relationship addictions," Jack said, as he took another slice of pizza from the box, "you can decide not to be addicted anymore. It's that simple. So I decided I wasn't addicted to Miranda anymore, and poof, I wasn't." "Decide? It was that easy?" Jenna scoffed, unable to believe it. Well, it wasn't exactly easy, but it was all about deciding. I know it seems like this Jax bloke has your number, but he doesn't, lass. It's all in your head. She felt skeptical. How could it possibly be? Whenever she was with Jax, she felt out of control. So decidedly not in any position to decide anything, especially when her clothes came off. How could she just decide not to be affected by him anymore? It was like asking the moon not to be affected by Earth's gravity. I don't know if it's that simple. Jack grabbed a napkin from the table and wiped his lips. "I know it doesn't seem so, but in my experience, people only have power over you if you let them." It's what Maddie had basically said too. Could they both be right? Suddenly, Jenna didn't feel like talking about Jax anymore. She wanted to talk about Jack. She didn't know about just deciding to be over Jax, but she sure forgot about him for a while when Jack was around. "Why did you come over here?" Jenna asked suddenly. She still hadn't gotten to the bottom of that issue. Now it was Jack's turn to squirm and look uncomfortable. "Well, I mean it. You get this random, weird text from me. Why didn't you ignore it? Or turn me into Pam?" "I'd never do that, love." "So, what's the reason?" "Come on, I won't bite. I might cry for no reason, but I won't bite." Jack laughed, and Jenna grinned. The pizza settled in her stomach nicely, soaking up some of that vodka. Jack finished off a piece in his hand and swallowed the last bite. "How about that wine now?" Jack stood and popped over to her granite-top kitchen. "I don't know if I should," Jenna cautioned, watching him grab the bottle. "I don't think I need any more." "Oh, it's not for you, it's for me, lass." Jenna laughed, and Jack found the corkscrew in the second drawer. With masterful strokes, he had the bottle uncorked in seconds. He fished out stemware from her cabinet and poured himself a glass. He swigged nearly half of it right there. I think you're avoiding the question, Jenna teased, and pulled her bare legs up under the silk robe that was covering her knees, but still left part of her pale calf exposed. Her long, dark hair fell straight and smooth down her back. That I am, lass, that I am. Jack took another deep drink of wine. Okay, he admitted, as he poured it more into the glass. I'll tell you. He came back to the linen couch and slumped into it. I've had... what do you call it? A crush? Well, I've had it on you for ages. Jenna went stock still. Her boss had the hots for her. Since when? You can't be serious. Jenna shoved him hard, playfully, half thinking he was pulling her leg. You didn't notice all that flirting I was doing with you, lass? Were you blind? Jenna hadn't noticed. It hadn't even occurred to her that someone like Jack Kearney might be after her. The extra coffees I'd pick you up in the morning, the accidental elbow touching in the meetings, the lean in. Jack spread his hands in exasperation. Lean in? Jenna echoed, a little confused. Aye, the lean in. Jack proved his point by moving in so close to her that their noses almost touched. His blue eyes stared intently into hers, and for a second she felt completely rooted to the spot. That close, Jenna's heart skipped a beat, and she felt her mouth go dry. You've been doing that at work? I've been doing the lean in for weeks. You haven't noticed, not one time. I thought you just weren't interested, or maybe you were with someone. But you never talked about a boyfriend, so I was beginning to think you might be, preferring lasses. You thought I was a lesbian? She hit Jack hard in the arm now. Not many girls resist the lean-in. Jenna barked a laugh. Of course they didn't. Jenna imagined the staff and admins at work fainting at the mere thought of a lean-in from Jack Kearney. It's against office rules to flirt with me. Don't I know it, Jack sighed. I've been trying to resist you, milady. But I've failed miserably. You're just too damn gorgeous. Gorgeous? Jack Kearney thought she was gorgeous. So, in my adolescent boy dreams, you'd send me a text just like this one. He fished out his phone from his pocket and held it up. When it actually happened, well, I came running. This amazingly sexy man, her boss, was sitting on her couch simply because she texted him to come over, with the faint hint of sex attached. Suddenly, Jenna felt powerful, in control. She'd done that. She'd called and he'd come. It wasn't like when Jax did the same thing and she'd come running. Here, she'd been the one calling the shots. She felt suddenly heady, or was she about to get too much vodka spins? At this point, it was a toss-up. Still, the vodka still thrumming through her bloodstream. It made her bold. She crawled a little towards him on the couch, the robe slipping off one shoulder. He watched her every move, her eyes fixed on his eyes fixed on her body. I'm glad you did, she whispered, and Jack's ice blue eyes grew wide as she moved closer to him, walking her fingers up his arm. She felt the thrilling sensation of taking control. She wanted Jack, and her drunk brain couldn't process why it would be a bad idea. The pizza may have soaked up some of the vodka, but there was still plenty in the system. I'm going to get fired, aren't I? Jack murmured, but he didn't move anyway. Maybe, she teased. It'll be worth it, he said, and pulled her onto his lap, his mouth covering hers. She felt the rush of blood in her ears as their mouths touched, his sexy stubble tickling her chin. She hungrily tasted him, moving so she was on top of his lap. He ran his hands down her back as she arched into him, moaning into his mouth. Her body lit up, each vein like a white-hot circuit as his strong hands clasped her waist. Her silky robe slid off now as Jack's hands roved over her bare skin. Then, suddenly, he pulled away. Wait, he breathed heavily into her ear. What? Alarm ran down Jenna's spine as she tried to focus on what was happening. She wasn't as sober as she should be, she realized distantly. I can't take advantage. You've had a lot to drink. No, I haven't. And then she hiccuped loudly, cartoonishly, to make his point. She grabbed at his elbow, missed, and clunked her nose against his shoulder. He gently righted her. See what I mean? Maybe, she growled petulantly. But so what? Mama would skin me alive if I took advantage. Jenna felt like she'd been hit with a blast of cold air. Was he turning down the possibility of sleeping with her? All the heady power she'd felt seconds earlier had left her, like air out of a pop balloon. Don't go. Jenna didn't want to beg, but that choice, what choice did she really have? Who said anything about going? I said I couldn't take advantage of you. I didn't say you couldn't take advantage of me. A devilish grin lit up on Jack's face as Jenna giggled, relieved. He kissed her once, and she fell backwards against the armrest of her couch. He pressed his full, delicious weight on top of her. She hungrily returned the kiss, running her hands down his thick black hair. He broke the first kiss, trailing kisses down her chest, over the clasp of her bra, and down the center line of her belly. She thought he'd return, but he kept going, running kisses down her belly button as he continued downward, ever downward. He had the elastic of her lacy thong in his hands, and with a few hard tugs it was gone, tossed somewhere on the living room floor. Jenna grabbed him by the shoulders, guiding him up, but he resisted direction, shaking his head. Not yet, he said, and he bent down before her bareness, pulling her knees apart. He studied her, the look on his face telling her he liked what he saw. He dipped his head down, trailing kisses up her inner thigh as he pressed her knees even further apart. When he got to her wet crevice, he blew on her, the cool air setting off a shiver of delight. Jack, wait. But he was a man on a mission, as he dove into her liquid center, licking her softly, tantalizingly lightly, as he teased her, working his way around her swollen button, thousands of delicate nerve endings waiting to be touched, circling, and then rolling over her, smothering her in the flat of his warm, wet tongue. She felt like fainting from the sheer, perfect pleasure of it. She let out a high-pitched gasp, unable to stop herself. He dug in deeper, eagerly. She tangled her hands in his hair, her head thrown back, nipples erect against the thin lace of her bra. The pleasure began to build, marching one step on top of another, as he worked silent magic with his tongue. I can't, Jenna moaned, wishing she could hold off until he was inside her, but knowing she couldn't wait. Not now. Not with the deliberate design of his mouth on her. She tried to resist, tried to hold off, but knew she was powerless to stop what came next. Her muscles seized, ready for the final tidal wave, as she grabbed hold of the couch cushion beneath her. Oh, Jack dug deeper, staying on point as he intensified his rhythm, and then Jenna's brain exploded in a rainbow of colors and sensations as she cried out, loud, her body shaking as Jack brought her wave after wave of pure, heart-wrenching pleasure. She cried out once more, the orgasm taking every last bit of her energy as it ripped through her body. One shining bolt of gratification struck after another as the last brilliant explosion rippled through her body. She felt like a heap of jelly with no bones. Oh, my God, Jenna muttered as Jack pulled away. He blew once more on her, sending shivers rippling down her back, all the way down to her toes. Aftershocks trembled through her every muscle in her body, leaving her feeling vulnerable and wrung out. That was amazing, she breathed, her hands still tangled in his hair. Jax had never done that before. In fact, Jax didn't like going down. Well, of course he wouldn't. What would be in it for him? Jax was all about mutual gratification, or just plain gratification for himself. Now, Jack kissed her on the inside of the wrist, a delicate gesture, his stark blue eyes never leaving hers. with the amazing climax and the alcohol swimming in her system. Jenna felt unbelievably tired now, but she didn't want to leave Jack unsatisfied. It didn't seem right. "Your turn," she murmured, fighting to keep her eyes open, as she tried to make her jellied limbs obey her, and they rebelled at every turn. "I told you, I can't take advantage," Jack murmured in her ear. He picked her up. "The bed will be more comfortable." "No," Jenna protested, weakly, even though she already knew she didn't have a choice. He gently laid her down on her covered bed. "Sleep now, beautiful," he said. She tried to argue with him, but it was no use. Her heavy eyelids shut as a dark, heavy sleep came for her. What more can I say? We'll see you in the next one. I guess this is where we leave Jenna and Jack for this chapter of texting under the influence. This has been Mills and Chill. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and we'll see you in the next one.